Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's on-demand wellness session, Yoga for Unwinding Stress. Leading the session is Dr. Susan Marcus, a research psychologist and faculty in the School of Psychology. She is also a yoga instructor and yoga practitioner. Dr. Marcus, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. Hello, everyone, and I'm so glad you're joining me today, or you can view this video later. The focus of today's yoga class is on stress, and we use yoga in order to manage stress, to help balance the raising of the mind with the stiffness or the density or the sluggishness of the body. And so what we'll be doing today is a series of poses designed to quiet the mind and create space in the physical body for some mindful attention to the present. And that in and of itself has a very stress-reducing quality. And this practice is recommended. You can do the whole thing. You can do one pose at a time. And each pose in and of itself has a stress-reducing, quieting quality. So the first pose we'll do is a pose called Adho Mukha Virasana, forward bending hero pose. And I'll show it in two ways, one on the floor and one on the chair, because in case it's not comfortable to get to the floor, you can do it from the chair. So the first way from the floor, and you can use, if you have bony knees or tight hips, you can just sit, instead of just sitting on the floor, you can take one of your supports and put it under your knees, and this is a lot more comfortable. But then you'll take as many supports as you need, a good pile of blankets, and with your knees apart and the blankets pulled way in, sit on your shins, sit on your heels, and then just slowly come forward. And you see I'm not coming forward with a rounded back, and I'm not coming forward with a back arch. I want to extend the front of my body and back of the body evenly. So when I come down, the whole front body can rest on the support. You let your arms go and just turn your head to the side. And you can close your eyes and let your shoulders relax. The cue in this pose is once you're down here, and again, don't do this pose if there's pain in the knees. I'll show you the alternative. Is to relax the back body to the front body, to let go of the tension around the sacrum, the lumbar, the middle and upper back, and just melt, let go, release downward. And you can be here for several minutes. We won't do that right now, but in your practice at home, you can certainly be here for a few minutes, and then you turn your head the other way. And the same thing about the same time. You let the shoulders go. You let the back chest move towards the support. Keep this whole area here spreading, and the area here, your abdomen soft. No need to grip or work the abdomen, just let it relax. This is very quieting to the mind and very soothing to the lower and mid back. And then to come up, you just simply put your hands down and come up. Now, if this is not possible, you can use your chair, and you don't need a mat for this. But just bring yourself close to a wall. Sit comfortably on your chair. Put your hands on the chair, and then just walk down. So here again, the abdomen can rest. We actually hold a lot of tension in this lower area. And this is a really important area because it's responsible for digestion and elimination. So we want this area to relax. And then just simply adjust so that you can sit in the chair with your feet firm. And can you see this is the same shape of the pose? The arms are a little bit more active. I stretch the arms. And I keep my head, don't let the head hang. It's a little hard on the neck. But keep the head in line with the arms. and point the crown of the head to the wall. And even so, even though this is a little bit more active, it's the same shape of the pose on the floor, and it creates the same benefit of lengthening and spreading the muscles away from the spine and keeping the brain quiet. And then to come up, just push off the wall, and here you are in the chair. So either of those two poses can be done first, and then if you're still in the chair and your hamstrings are tight, you'll put your hands on your chair, step your feet back as much as you can manage, have your feet at least as wide as the chair legs, have your heels turned a little bit further out than your toes, stretch your arms with your head between your arms, and move your thighs and your hips back. So this is a supported version of downward facing dog. This is a very familiar yoga pose for many of you. See how my arms are straight and my legs are straight. The nice thing, the cooling thing, the stress reducing thing about this pose is the head is slightly lower than the heart, which means the head is going to be, the brain is going to be the receiver of all of that wonderful blood flow and oxygen. The brain demands, I think, about 80% of the oxygen circulating in the blood. And so bringing blood to the head is always a good idea. And it quiets the brain. So that's the more supported version of that pose. You can also use your supports here to come into the pose. So see how my hands are forward. Oh, let me move this up. See how my hands are forward and my shoulders are back. So that when I straighten my legs, I can get close to the wall. So even if my hamstrings are tight, I don't have to get the heels to the floor. I can simply push them in the wall, straighten the legs, straighten the arms, and rest the head. So again, the arms and legs are working, the muscles are stretching, the arms are lifting, the thighs are lifting, but the head, the brain is quiet. If your hands start to slip, just adjust your hands. The weight in the pose should move to the back of the body, to the thighs. Now, if you're practicing, you can hold this pose for up to 5 minutes, but that may be a long time. So here, you can come down and rest. So if you were doing the seated pose first on the floor, I would start like this, and then you rest your head like this, and then quietly come into downward facing dog. And rest the head. Stretch the arms, lift the hips, quiet the brain. Breathe normally. Ideally, breathe in and out through the nose. There's a considerable amount of research on how important breathing through the nose is for mental, physical, and emotional health. And we'll repeat that one more time. Resting. And be sure when you're doing this, you see the blankets weren't close enough. I want to have as much of the front of my chest resting. One side, the other side. And then again, come back up into the pose. So we're adding a little bit of movement as well as stillness. And each time you move and come into stillness, use the breath. In other words, observe your breath, breathing in and out through the nose, to focus your attention on something that's occurring in the present moment. So rather than worrying about your next project or a deadline, if you observe your breath, it gives you access to being present in the actual moment that you're doing the pose. And then come down and rest. If it's comfortable, sit on your heels. The next pose is also a brain quieting pose. This can be done at any time from your desk or included as part of your practice. If your hamstrings are very tight, you can just take your chair. Don't use a chair with wheels. A steady chair. Step back. And just rest your head. See, my forehead is on the front edge of the back of the chair and my arms are resting on the chair. Observe that my legs are straight. People with tight hamstrings, take your feet nice and wide apart. You can go to the edge of the mat. Turn the heels slightly out. Keep the kneecaps tight. And the tailbone, that's the coccyx, the tip of the coccyx, moving towards the floor. If you're a little bit more flexible, then you can use the seat of the chair. And again, the blanket on the chair, if you don't have a pad or it's not very cushiony, same thing. You can rest your arms. See how my forehead is resting. The tailbone, the coccyx, is moving towards the floor, and the kneecaps are tight. So I can be here, and then hold on to the legs of the chair. For those of you who are a little bit more flexible, and don't need the support, you can take your feet about a foot apart, bend forward from the hip crease, and simply hold your elbows. And see how my inner arms are in line with my ears, and the crown of my head points to the floor. In all cases, spread the toes, shift the weight slightly forward so you're not light on your heels, but you can feel the weight on the front of the foot, and you'll get a little bit more hamstring stretch. And again, when you're in this pose, the idea is to simply focus on the breath. Observe the inhalation and exhalation. The other interesting thing to observe is how difficult that is to do. That after a few breaths, your mind starts to fly off somewhere. So simply bring it back to the breath and see if you can maintain that present experience a little bit longer. To come out of any forward bend, you put your hands on your hips, and with an inhalation, come up. The next pose is Tadasana, and I'll do it from the side so you can see. I'm going to keep my feet apart because it's a bit easier. And again, have the heels slightly wider than the toes. I take my hands with the thumbs slightly behind my hips. And then with tight kneecaps and the tailbone, the coccyx moving down, I lean now a little bit more into my heels so that the thighs, the big muscles of the thighs move back and the front of the spine can lift. Then, as I push my feet into the floor and extend my fingers down towards the floor, I lift the crown of my head up to the ceiling. And then as you breathe in and out, Stare softly at a point in front of you. And keep your arms and legs as straight as strong as you can. This wakes up the muscles of the limbs, which have been hunched over a computer, or hunched over a desk, or standing at your desk. And this activates all the muscles in the arms and the legs. And then let go. Our next pose is a seated twist. So if you have a chair without arms, it works the best. So sit, and you'll see me sitting here like this. Not leaning back on the chair, but with your bottom in the middle of the chair and your feet in the right angle. If you're tall, you'll need a blanket underneath your seat. In other words, to raise the height of the chair. If you're short, you'll need a blanket under your feet. You'll start facing in the direction of the knees, and it's important to keep the knees in line with the hips, in line with the feet. Extend the arms up, and then drop the pelvis, the buttocks into the chair. So you're creating a space between the rib cage and the pelvis. Inhale, lift up through the crown of your head. Exhale, turn from right to left. And then take your right hand to your left thigh, and your left hand, if you have a chair where you can slip your hand behind the back, hold on to the chair seat. If not, just go around or even hold the back like this, or just find something to grab on. Inhale, lift up through the crown of the head. Exhale, without turning your hips, turn your chest. Breathe normally. And then release. I'll show you from the front and we'll go to the other side. So sit nice and tall. Make the pelvis heavy and the feet heavy and the rib cage light. Inhale to stretch your arms up. Inhale again to lift the rib cage away from your waist and take the outer hips towards the chair. Feel the spine lengthen right up through the crown of your head. Reach with the fingers to the ceiling. Stamp on the feet so they're firm on the floor. Then turn from left to right, keeping the knees even. Take your left hand on your outer right thigh and your right hand behind. Again, depending on the kind of chair you have, just find something to grab onto. Exhale, stamp on your feet and make the hips heavy. Inhale, lift up through the crown of the head and see if you can turn the chest a bit more. Your abdomen should be soft and moving towards the back of your body, not dropping onto your thighs. And then release. Let's try that one more time. If it's difficult for you to raise your arms, then simply keep your hands on your hips, turn, and then do the pose. So if you can, raise your arms up, reach the fingertips to the ceiling. You may observe that the muscles, the latissimus dorsi, that connect the sides of the chest to the upper arm, when you reach your arm, the rib cage, the chest can lift. And that creates important space between your rib cage and your pelvis. So the internal organs get a break. They get a nice massage. Turn from left to right. As you exhale, bring your right hand down to your left leg and your left hand behind. Exhale again to stand strongly on your feet, hips heavy on the chair. Inhale to lift, and lift up through the crown of the head as you turn, and exhale. And then release, come back to center. I'll do it from the other side. So stand on your feet, stand on your hips. Inhale, stretch your arms up. Observe too that when I reach my arms up, I'm not reaching forward, but I keep everything down so that the chest can lift straight up. Turn from left to right. Keep the knees even. Left hand on the right thigh. Right hand behind you. Exhale to make the feet dance, the hips dance, the buttocks dance. Inhale to make the chest light, the rib cage light, your brain light. And then release. Okay, now as a stress-reducing practice, we'll move towards the floor. So you'll need a couple blankets for this. So here, this is a wonderful practice for opening the chest and resting. So, and then I can use my hands to support my head. So that my arms go on the back side of the support. And my feet. Now, you don't have to do this at the wall. It's very nice to do it at the wall, but you can just simply do it with your legs just extended. And take your feet wide and let the toes roll out if they're more comfortable. If you're at the wall, you can point the toes to the ceiling and press the backs of the thighs down. So you can make this pose more or less active. The important part here, I hope you can see that there's a wonderful coil of the upper chest and a support and extension of the lower back. So this area here between your rib cage and the two sides of your pelvis is soft and receding. The abdominal organs are receding back to the back of the body where they belong. The chest is open. Relax your hands, and then as a final adjustment, see if you can roll the arm from the bicep to the tricep. Turn it so the shoulder blades tuck in a bit more. And then here you can close your eyes. To come out of this pose, bend your knees, both feet on the floor, and you'll turn to your right. So you'll use your left hand all the way over, just roll onto your side, pause, and then use your left hand to bring yourself up. While we're on the floor, the next pose uses two blankets as well. And I'm going to move my mat out of the way, because I want to be able to slide a bit. One way is just with your feet at the wall. So I start by sitting right on the edge of the blankets, and then lie back. And then slide off the blankets until my shoulder blades are on the floor. So again, I'm getting a nice opening in the front of the chest. Then I can hold on to the blankets, put my feet into the wall, and straighten my legs. And then just let the feet go. So now the whole back body is supported by the blankets or the towels, and I can extend my arms out to the side. Again, gravity is doing a great job of opening up the front of the body, letting the breath, the air come into the lungs, the movement of the diaphragm to be free. Gravity is doing a great job of letting my shoulders relax to the floor. I can even help gravity by turning the arms again from the bicep to the tricep so that this whole area opens up more. And then you can close your eyes. There's another way to do this pose with the chair. It still involves lying on the floor. But this is particularly if you want to take advantage of this pose. But if you have a lower back issue or you experience some lower back tightness. So the setup looks like this. So instead of my feet going into the wall, my feet are going to go on the chair. And instead of the blanket being this way, I'm going to turn the blanket, the support this way. Okay? So I hope you can see I'm starting by sitting directly down on the blanket. And then I can take my hands behind and put, so this area, this is your sacrum. I can lift up and put the sacrum on the support. And lie back. And put my feet on the chair. Or if I want a little bit more of extension of the front of the body, put my feet on the rungs on the chair. So you can see it's the same shape. The lower body is slightly elevated. And it helps relax and open up this area down in the lower abdomen. On the floor, I can tuck my shoulder blades under and open the chest. And for our last pose, simply slide back off your support and have the blankets underneath your thighs. Again, if you need support for your head, so the neck can rest. Our last pose is Shavasana. If you have lower back issues and want more support than just blankets, then you'll take your chair and a blanket, one for your sacrum, and one for your head. And rest your calves on the chair. So this is one of the poses that for my students who have back issues, I recommend is what I call a go-to pose for lower back, because it helps spread the sacrum, relax the abdomen, and keep the spine totally supported. And this is Shavasana, so again, you can close your eyes or keep the eyes open, whatever is the least disturbing. And then again, once you're settled into the pose, relax the eyes. You can create an experience where the eyes feel like they're dropping to the back of the skull. So with eyes closed, release the eyes to the back of the skull and observe what happens to the skin around the eyes. Relax the lips, relax the tongue, and observe the breath. And you can be in Shavasana for a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can take a nap in Shavasana. It's perfectly fine. And then to come out of this pose, if you're on the chair, move the chair out of the way. If you have the blankets under your thighs, simply bend your knees, put your feet either on the blankets or on the floor. And then again, turn all the way over onto your right side. Use your left hand to come up and come sit. Thank you for joining me in this practice. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you can incorporate some of these poses into your everyday life. have a restful day.